This week's parsha is Parshat Bo, and this Torah is based on a shiur I heard from Rav Bernstein. It's his 2019 shiur online. And we're focusing on a discussion that could often take place at the Haggadah, like at the Seder, right, because it's in the Haggadah, but we'll look at it as it's presented in this week's Parsha. So in chapter 12, verse 25, and it kind of introduces it with, V'haya ki tavo el haaretz, right, when you come to the land, asher yiten Hashem lachem, that God will give to you, kasher diber, as he said, ushmartem et avodah, and you shall keep this avodah. What's this avodah? It's the Korban Pesach. Okay. So next verse, V'haya ki yomru aleichem bnechem, ma ha'avodah hazot lachem. And it shall be when your sons will say to you, ma ha'avodah hazot lachem. What is this avodah to you? Now, this is the question of the Rasha, right? That's how it's well known to us. We're familiar with this pasuk. And so what is our response to that? He says, Rasha ma'omer ma'avodah lachem v'lo lo, right? And we can see it as a barbed question. He's saying it, for you, not for me. And so what's our response? We knock his teeth out, hake chinav. That is definitely a response. And we want to understand what exactly is prompting the difference in response between the Rasha and the Chacham. Now, what do we mean? If we're to look at the Chacham's question, right before the Rasha, Chacham mahu omer, ma ha'idot v'achukim v'mishpatim asher tziva Hashem Elokeinu etchem. Right? The Chacham, what does he say? What are the testimonies and the statutes and the laws that Hashem our God has commanded you? That's what he says. That's in Dvarim 6:20. Now, what's interesting is here it says, Hashem Elokeinu etchem, to you. But we don't respond to him with, you said etchem, and you didn't say oti. What do we say? That's a proper response. Why are we not knocking at the teeth of the Chacham? He seems to have the same kind of question as the Rasha. The Rasha is saying lachem, and he didn't say lo. So too, the Chacham is saying etchem and not oti. So what's the difference here? Why do we respond to the Rasha so harshly as opposed to the Chacham? Now, this is a question, as you can imagine, that prompts many answers, but there's one that we'll focus on today, and that is, these questions are extracted from Sukkim. Now, sometimes, the Haggadah doesn't really give us the full context, the full pasuk of what's going on, and to understand the different intonations of these questions, we really need to go back to the Psukim and see what is the surrounding context to these questions. And that will explain a lot, and it'll close a lot of gaps in our knowledge. Now, what do we mean? If we compare the question of the Rasha to the question of the Tam, now the question of the Tam pops up again in this week's Parsha. So all three out of four sons are actually in this week's Parsha. Only the Chacham is in Dvarim. But if we go to the end of the Parsha, we're in Maftir, so it's chapter 13, verse 14. We see, V'hayaki shalcha bencha machar lemor, mazot v'amarte elav v'chozak yad v'tzianu Hashem mitzrayim mibet avadim, right? And it'll be when your son asks you tomorrow, lemor, to say, mazot, well, what is this? V'amarte elav, and you shall say to him, v'chozak yad v'tzianu Hashem mitzrayim mibet avadim, right? It's a very nice answer. Now, there was a gadol in the 1700s by the name of Reb Rafal HaKohen of Hamburg, and he has a sefer called the Marpei Lashon, and he looks at the difference in setting between these two questions. Now again, if we're to look at chapter 13, verse 14, when your son asks you, right, it says, Le'emor. What does the word Le'emor mean? Now the common translation is saying. If your son asks you saying, that's not very helpful, because when someone says something, normally they're saying something. So that doesn't really seem to add much. It's a difficult word to translate, admittedly. So what does le'emor mean? Now there are many Mefarshim that say that le'emor is infinitive. It means to say. What does it mean to ask a question to say? Well, do we get any context for this? The answer is yes. If we actually go to the end of Parshat Behalotcha, that's skipping out a lot, right? That's Sefer Bamidbar. We're right at the end, and that's when Miriam is sick, and Moshe davens for Miriam, And it says, we're looking at chapter 12, verse 13, Vayitzak Moshe Lashem Leimor El Narafanallah, right? And Moshe screamed to Hashem, Leimor. Here's what we see. And what does Rashi say? Leimor, Ma Talmud Lomar. What's the pasuk coming to say? So Amar Lo, Hashiveni. Moshe was saying to God, respond to me. Answer me. That's what Leimor means. When a question is asked to say, then we can see that, again, when a question is said, when you're asking a question to say, then you're asking a question to get an answer. That's what it means to ask a question lemor, is that you're asking with the goal that someone should say something, that they should respond to you. Now, to clarify, says Rabbi Raphael Cohen in Hamburg, that not every question is asked with the goal that the person should respond and say something back. Sometimes the goal is that the person should have absolutely nothing to say back. That is not a question. That is a statement. Now, what we mean to say is like this. There are two types of questions. You can ask a question with the goal that someone should respond to you, right? But there's another question where they're not really looking for an answer. They really are just trying to make a point. Now, that's the kind of question that is not introduced with the lemor. So when we look at the psukim and we see, Vayaki shal chavencha machar leimor. That is the kind of question he's looking for a response, as opposed to the Rasha. What does he say? He says, Vayaki ki yomru aleichem b'nechem mahavozad lechem. There's no leimor because he's not looking for a response. And in fact, we can actually glean this again from just continuing to look closely at the psukim. What does it say? Ki yishal chavencha machar leimor. Right? How does the pasuk phrase it? Vayaki yishal chavencha. It's in the pasuk. When your son asks you leimor, that's what the pasuk says. As opposed to with regards to the question of the Rasha, what does it say? Vayaki yomru aleichem b'nechem ma'avozad lechem. What does it say? When your sons shall say to you. What does it mean when your sons shall say to you? What kind of question is asked to say? You don't say a question, you ask the question. So says Rabbi Raphael Cohen, Hamburg. No, in fact, some questions are meant to say something. Those questions, again, are not questions. They're statements. It's a pronouncement. That's the kind of question that's being asked. It's being said. And so we see that there's an agenda behind this question. And again, just continuing to look extra closely at the psukim. This is all Rabbi Raphael Cohen, Hamburg. He says, let's again look. How many people does it take to ask a question? Now, often, we all want to ask questions. But how many people at the same time need to ask a question? And again, usually you say, one. That's all that you need to do. So if we look again at chapter 13, verse 14, we're back in Parshat Bo. V'haya ki yishal chavencha. Right? When your son shall ask, you're a single son. Your one son will ask you because he's just asking because he wants to know what the answer is. That's what's going on. But if we're to turn back to chapter 12, verse 26, what does it say? V'haya ki yomru aleichem b'nechem. If your sons shall say to you in the plural, how many people does it take to ask a question? And now truth is, says Rabbi Raphael, a question that is intended to really make a statement, that tends to be asked in company. Because the more people asking, the more emphatic the statement. So as soon as you start seeing a number of people there, that should start to raise your suspicions about what is behind this question. And so that gives us a lot of background in terms of why we have such a different response to the Rosh as opposed to the Chacham, as opposed to the Tam. We'll leave it there. We're not going to deal with Hake and Shinav. That'll be a conversation for a different time. And Shabbat Shalom.